Hello, Year 3, Mr. Bayford here, and for World Book Day, I have chosen Frank Lampard's Meteor Madness. I've never read this book before, but it does look like it involves footballs and space, two things I love. So let's have a read. Chapter 1. Bright sunshine trickled through the leaves of the forest as Frankie and his family pulled up next to the log cabin. The holiday officially starts here, announced Frankie's dad. Just what we need, his mum said, opening the car door. Some time with Mother Nature. Kevin looked up from his games console. Yeah, great, he grumbled. Loads of insects and a lumpy bed. Frankie unclipped his seatbelt and jumped out of the car. They'd been driving for nearly 3 hours to reach the holiday camp. Max whined from the back, so Frankie went out to let him out too. He sprang out onto the grass. Frankie breathed in the crisp air of the forest. He couldn't wait to explore the camp. Apparently, there was tennis courts, an outdoor heated pool, and even a mini theme park. But the best thing about this whole trip was that Lois and Charlie were coming with their families as well. Hey, Frankie, give me a hand with the luggage, will you? Asked his dad. Frankie saw his father struggling with a huge suitcase and rushed over to help him. Together, they dragged it out of the car. Frankie's football rolled out of it. I don't know why you keep that old thing, said his dad. Didn't we get you a new ball for your last birthday? Frankie grinned and picked up the battered, half-deflated ball. His dad didn't know that the football had magic powers that could take them on amazing adventures. Yeah, Frankenstein, said Kevin, smirking. Why don't you just throw it away? Kevin knew all about the football's powers. Frankie didn't trust him with the secret one bit. I guess I'm attached to it, he mumbled. Frankie's mum had unlocked the door to the cabin, and they began to carry all they sorry, and they be, yes, they began to carry all their luggage inside. Frankie took his bag and the ball into the room with a bunk bed. I'm having the top, said Kevin, shoving him out the way and heaving his rucksack onto the top mattress. Fine, said Frankie with a sigh. As he went back into the living room, he saw his dad carrying a long black case he'd never seen before. What's that? He asked. His dad smiled as he laid it carefully onto the table. He clicked open the lid. Inside, cushioned in padding, was a telescope. Goodness, said Frankie's mum, peering over his shoulder. Have you still got that? I dug it out of the loft, said his dad. Frankie watched as he took out and unfolded a tripod. I used it years ago for looking at the stars. There are too many streetlights where we live now. Boring, said Kevin. Who wants to look at stars? Actually, Frankie's dad said, there's supposed to be a meteor shower tonight. If it stays clear, it should be quite a sight. Max started barking, and Frankie went to the front door. Louise and Charlie were rushing along the path. Hi, guys, said Frankie. You're here already. We're in the next cabin along. We're in the next cabins along, said Louise, tickling Max's chin. Isn't this place amazing? Yeah, great, grumbled Kevin. Oh, ignore him, said Frankie. Have you explored yet? We were waiting for you, said Charlie. Frankie's dad was putting away the telescope. Why don't you all go for a swim while your mum and I unpack, he said. No can do, said Charlie, holding up his hands. He was wearing Goldie gloves. Can't wait to get these wet. Frankie's mum arrived. Well, you could take them off. Frankie and Louise laughed. Sometimes parents say the funniest things. Charlie never took off his gloves. He even wore them to bed. Frankie whistled for Max. The little dog came scampering from the bush. You coming, Kev? Asked Frankie. His brother shrugged. I'd rather stay here and finish my game. Suit yourself, Frankie thought. He set off into the camp with his friends, then remembered something. He dashed back and grabbed his magic football. No way was he leaving it with Kevin. There were paths leading around to the holiday camp and maps showing where all the attractions were. There were lots of other kids around with their parents and several dogs as well. People were climbing trees, eating on the fold-out tables, and playing with frisbees and badminton rackets. They passed loads of other cabins, the tennis courts, and a restaurant, until at last they saw a roller coaster track peeking above the trees. The theme park! Whoa, cool, said Frankie. Let's check it out. They followed the tracks to a set of gates with a sign made out of lupin metal letters. World of Wonder, it said. Beneath it was another sign written in red pen. Closed until further notice. The gate suddenly opened, and a man in blue overalls came out. Sorry, kids, he said. There's been some sort of electrical fault. None of the rides have any power. Frankie's heart sagged. Oh. But I see you're footballers, said the maintenance man, nodding to the ball under Frankie's arm. There's a five-a-side pitch just round the corner. He pointed at the path. Yay, said Louise, her eyes lighting up. Let's go. The three of them ran up the path with Max following. Soon, Frankie had forgotten all about his disappointment. They had the whole pitch to themselves, but he thought it wouldn't take long to find other visitors who wanted to play as well. Perhaps we can organise a tournament, said Charlie as he dived to stop another shot. Great idea, said Frankie, but we only have 4 players, and that's if we include Max. What about your brother? Asked Louise. She kicked the ball to Frankie. We'll have to prise him away from his console first, he said, as he lined up the ball for a curling shot. Max let out a sudden buck, and Frankie fluffed his kick. The ball curled off at an angle, sailed high into the air. Max was hopping around the bottom of a tree, while a squirrel watched from a branch above. Max, you put me off, said Frankie. Max lowered his head. Where'd that ball go? Said Charlie. They then heard all they Then they all heard a beeping sound. It was coming from over the wall where the theme park was. Weird, said Louise. I thought that man said the electrics were down. Perhaps it's up and running again, said Frankie. Let's go and look. He ran back around to the main gate, which was slightly ajar. Are you sure about this? Said Louise. We're just going in to get the ball, said Frankie. Still, he cast a nervous glance back as he pushed through the gate. Everything was still, apart from some coloured lights flashing further into the park. Frankie's skin tingled. Had the power come back on? Or was this the work of the magic football? It wouldn't be the first time it had made strange things happen. Most of the rides were silent. He saw a roller coaster, a clown circus, a ghost house, and several others. The flashing lights were coming from a model space shuttle supported by a long beam. Frankie guessed it swung up and down. The ride was called Galaxy Quest, but he couldn't see the ball anywhere. Max trotted up to the spaceship and sniffed around. Then he rested his paws on it. I think he smelled something, said Frankie. Leaning over the spaceship's edge, he saw the ball lodged under one of the seats. It's here! Frankie jumped up into the ride. Cool, said Charlie, climbing up as well. I've always wanted to be an astronaut. One small save for man, one giant save for... He went quiet as the ride creaked into motion, swinging slowly forwards on the long arm. Frankie stumbled backwards onto one of the seats. Is it supposed to do that? Said Louise. Maybe I should go and get someone. The ride rocked backwards again. Frankie saw the ball was glowing a little. I think it's the magic of the football, he said. It must want us to go. Quick, climb in! Louise grabbed Max and passed him to Frankie as the spaceship swung back and forth. Then she scrambled in herself. Fasten your seatbelts, she cried. The ride moved faster, swinging high into the air. Frankie's stomach yo-yoed up and down, but he pulled down the harness bars over his head until they clicked into place. He held Max in his lap. Do you think it's safe? Charlie shouted. I trust the football, says Frankie as the shuttle rocked higher. The spaceship swooped downwards, then climbed up to the other side. This time, it didn't stop and it swung upside down before plummeting again. It's getting faster, shouted Louise. The forest and the other rides shot past as the spaceship dipped and rose in huge circles. Frankie wondered if he'd made a mistake. What if the ride was actually dangerous? He saw smoke coming from the arm that held the rocket. We should get off, cried Charlie. Sparks fizzed in all directions. Then, with a few pops, the bolts and screws exploded. The whole ride began to shake. It's falling to bits, yelled Louise. Max was trembling on Frankie's knee, and he held him tight. They spun faster and faster until everything was a blur. Then, as the rocket rose again, Frankie felt it lurch. With a horrible tear of metal, they shot into the sky. And that is the end of chapter 1. Um, I won't go on to chapter 2. I will leave it there. This can be found in lots of bookstores and I think even our library as well if you want to carry on. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. I did, and I think I'm going to read on. So have a lovely World Book Day, and we'll see you soon.